Okay, should we get cracking? It's now 6 minutes past. So we'll get started. So today we're here for just under an hour to talk about supporting student volunteering. This is part of our work. So I work for Organised Fun. I'll talk about that in a minute. It's our work of helping to keep student opportunities going at this really strange and difficult time. And we want to do our bit to just sort of keep people sort of feeling supported and like feeling together in this, because there's loads of you that are kind of combating similar stuff. And in that first pitch-in session that we did a few weeks ago, there were lots of volunteer managers and people who support volunteering who were talking about quite specific volunteering related issues. So we thought it would be useful to do this session specifically focused on that. And luckily I've got some pals in the room who are going to help with that, and we'll introduce them in a minute. Andrew, is there anything else you want to say at this start point before I go on?
No, I think you've covered everything. I think most of the people here have been to a pitch-in session or 5 before.
Or 5. Yeah. Well done. Does someone get an award if they attend all of them?
Yeah, they get to buy me a coffee online.
That is a real thing you can do, by the way. So this pitch-in, we'll do, please say hello in the chat. You can unmute later on, so we'll do a little bit of us talking to you first, and then later on it's a pitch-in. It's everybody can get chatting. I've talked about the Google document, but I'll say it again. In the chat I've linked to the Google document, and that is a place for us to collectively note share. You'll get muted for a bit and then it's your turn to pitch in. And this is our little agenda for the day, so keeping it simple. We'll do some introductions so you know who's here as presenters today. We'll talk about reward, recognition, recruitment and retention, and then we'll talk about remote volunteering, all the R's. So these are just some things that lots of people have said are important, but they're not the only thing that we have to talk about today. That's just some kind of starters for us, and then we've got like open discussion points, so a chance for people to ask questions or talk about things that they've been doing. But first let's find out who's here. So I'm Rosie. I run a consultancy and organisation called Organised Fun. Our contact details are on the bottom. Our kind of purpose as an organisation is to bring student opportunities, people together, and to support student opportunities to be as good as it can be. So we do that with consultancy, but we also do some training. We do stuff like this, basically anything to do with volunteering, clubs, societies, students doing fun stuff, student media. That's what we care about and love and want to make happen. And as I said earlier, at this strange time, our focus around the coronavirus support is about keeping student opportunities going, because I think there's a really real risk that this could properly curb lots of our activity, and want to support all of you as much as we can to make sure that that doesn't happen. This is free. This isn't a sales pitch. You don't have to do any work with us ever if you don't want to. This bit of work is free. So who else is here? So we've got people from the Student Volunteering Network. So Mariana and Jasmine, could you introduce yourself, what your role is, what the Student Volunteering Network is, and just a little bit about like what you've been doing over the past few weeks, please. We'll go to Mariana first.
Hi everyone, my name is Mariana. I'm a part of the Student Volunteering Network. I'm also a volunteering manager at the University of West London. I've been at the university for the past 3 years, and I've been a part of the Student Volunteering Network committee, maybe for like 2.5 years as well. But I've been involved with them as in, you know, getting their support and advice, and for like, I don't know, since 2014 maybe. So they're an amazing network. I don't know if Jasmine wants to introduce herself, and then maybe we tell about the network.
Yeah, sounds good. Jasmine?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jasmine. I've been on the Student Volunteering Network Committee only during this academic year, so quite new, but I've sort of been involved with it in terms of the forums and different things for a bit longer than that during my role. And alongside that, I work at the University of York within the Students' Union as the Fundraising and Volunteering Coordinator. So both our student-led projects, one-off volunteering, remote bits and pieces, and then also any RAG and fundraising as well.
And what's the Student Volunteering Network?
So the Student Volunteering Network is basic. How do I put this? It's always so difficult to explain. It's basically a network of volunteering managers across the UK, and it's ran by volunteers. So the main point behind the Student Volunteering Network is that volunteering in higher education and further education is quite different from volunteering in general. Okay, so it's very specific. We deal with different student populations, and the network was created for that. So we can share best practice, we can ask for advice, and the way it works is mainly through a mailing list where any members can put out any questions or share policies, procedures, all of that, and it goes to the entire network. So the network is divided into regions. So, you have the London region, you have Southeast of England region, and each region has a chair that organizes meetings. So you get to meet people from different universities, different student unions. And then there's a committee where you have a chair, vice chair, secretary, comms officers, and we support all the regions across the UK. So long story short, it's about sharing and helping each other. There you go.
And you used to be called WISCVA, didn't you? Workers in Student Community Volunteering.
Yeah, I think Jenny from AVM now was the. I don't know. Did you actually started it, Jenny? Because I have the feeling you did.
No, I didn't start it, but I was the chair when we did the rebrand to Student Volunteering Network.
Oh, okay, that was it. Yeah. And I think Jenny was also working at UWL before I was. That's a bit of an interesting part here. Yeah, sorry.
So that's the Student Volunteering Network, and it's free to join, and their contact details are on the screen. We'll go over to Jenny now. So the Association of Volunteer Managers. So who are you, Jenny? What do you do? What you've been up to, and what's the AVM?
Hi everyone. So thank you, Mariana, for the introduction as well, and Rosie. In my day job, I'm head of volunteering for a charity called Home Start. It's a national volunteering organisation, but my background is in student volunteering, so that's where I kind of originated and where my passion really lies. I'm also director of the Association of Volunteer Managers. So we support volunteer managers across the UK. It's predominantly a volunteer board, and we have one member of staff. We have a conference normally every year that brings everybody together. It's very much like Student Volunteering Network. But as Mariana says, you guys have very specific needs, and I suppose AVM is just a bit broader, and in that sense is that there are networks within AVM that deal with the specifics of volunteer management. So yeah, we just try and bring everybody together and support one another.
Lovely, thank you. So Jasmine, Jenny and Mariana are going to kind of have a bit of a chat with me now about some of these topics, but feel free to ask questions and to put stuff in the Google Doc. So we'll have a little bit of a chat through these topics, and then what we'll do is we'll open it up to questions and kind of conversations and sharing ideas. So we'll start with talking about reward recognition, recruitment and retention. No big deal, just 4 massive areas for volunteer managers. And then obviously we're not going to cover absolutely everything in this session. So let's just start with the reward and recognition stuff. So lots of people over the past few weeks have been talking about award ceremonies and how to get them to be online or to do them differently. When I made these slides last week, we hadn't done the session yet. But last Friday afternoon, Andrew, myself and Joe from 25 Dots did a very, very, well, we didn't take much time to prepare it, but there was lots of demand for a pitch-in session about awards. So when I made these slides, we didn't know that was going to happen, but that happened on Friday, and the recording is online. So basically we talked about whether you should put it online, if you are, how can you do it, and how can you kind of build that hype around awards. So we won't go into that in loads of detail because that's kind of been covered in that session. And anybody who's a keen bean that is coming to all of these pitch-in sessions, you don't want to hear the same thing again. However, award ceremonies are just one way of rewarding and recognising your volunteers, and so I'm kind of opening it up to chat with Jasmine, Jenny and Mariana around like other things that you've been doing with your volunteers, or kind of problems you've been having around reward and recognition based on the time of the year and that kind of stuff. So what's been going on for you?
Okay, I'll start. So, as I'm assuming a lot of you, has happened to you, our award ceremony got cancelled. And in a way, I'm quite thankful that the decision was made like that, because we were still like a bit in the limbo, where it was like, oh, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And it was kind of like, you know what? No, it's not going to happen. It is a situation. We just need to acknowledge it, accept it, and think about new ways that we can deal with this and reward our volunteers, basically. So at UWL, we still have the HEAR, so the Higher Education Achievement Report, which, it's all about accrediting students for their time that they've given to volunteering. So we are still doing that. We are still contacting students. We are still talking to them about their volunteering experience. And a lot of them are quite stressed out, like, but I'm not volunteering anymore. What am I going to do? And it's like, it's okay. Like, you have done what you could. Plus, there's other stuff you can do online. And in a way, I think it's about telling them that we are still collecting their hours, and we are kind of learning as we go as well. And I think that reassures them a bit. And we are really, in the beginning, I thought about having a barbecue in the summer, which is probably not going to happen. So I know of a few people across London that are thinking about moving their ceremonies to October, and extending, awards regarding the hours and stuff. And I think there's a few people thinking about rewarding specific groups of students that have supported COVID-19 specific volunteering. So I know a few people in London that are thinking about that. And I think other people are just going to just scrap the ceremony this year and award everyone next year. I've not heard of anyone considering online ceremonies or anything like that, to be honest.
Well, to add to that, actually, Mariana, that was sort of I've in sort of York, and I know some other discussions. So I sit within the Students' Union, but we have kind of central university volunteering awards. Then we have our own SU awards and all sorts of bits and pieces going on. And with our sort of central SU awards, there's been discussions that they're going online, and that's going to be in the format of videos. It might be that not everyone joins in at the same time, but there's going to be some sort of social media recognition, online awards, and then obviously certificates may be posted and that kind of thing. So I know there's sort of different discussions. For some of our other awards, there is just the decision just to postpone them. I think one of the challenges that I've been having at the moment, a lot of the volunteers that I work with are student-led and student-led projects, so they kind of deliver everything themselves, and it kind of relies on them telling us what they're up to, and that is also the case for rewarding and recognising them. So if they don't tell us what they're up to, or if they've been up to previously, we then can't reward and recognise them, and because they're so focused on their other studies and everything else going on and the uncertainty, we aren't able to reward and recognise them in any way because they're just not communicating with us.
Yeah, that's tricky. And Jenny, for you, what's it like for you?
So for us, the things that we've been doing, we got a letter from our chief exec to write a letter to our volunteers, just to say thank you for all that they have been doing, and that just acknowledging the challenges that they might be facing individually, especially just recognizing the impact, you know, this is all having on everyone's mental health, and to kind of prioritize their own self-care. And just trying to kind of develop that comms around, you know, that we are supporting you as an individual as well as a volunteer. So that thank you letter has gone out to all of our volunteers. And then we've also been doing comms on social media, just recognizing volunteers that have been doing anything to do with COVID-19. So if there is that engagement, to kind of celebrate that and share that, and trying to encourage that amongst other home starts within our network. So yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, that chief exec letter idea is a really good one, and something that lots of people here could do. So I think we have talked about awards because they are kind of our front and center. What I've made is I've got a resource that I'll send to everybody after this, that's just like basically a big brain dump, a spider diagram of different ideas for rewarding and recognizing. And I made this before COVID-19 happened, but hopefully what it will do is give people like some little sparks of ideas for like, okay, maybe we can't do our awards, but could we say thank you and well done to our volunteers in a different way? Could we make them feel like they're still part of this community in a different way? So I'll share that with everybody after this. There's been some good things suggested in the chat as well that other people are doing, so I'll have a little look at that, and we can pick up on some of those in a while. So going on to recruitment, so clearly this time of the year is our heavy time in student volunteering around wrapping up some projects and getting new leaders involved and doing handover activities, reviewing what's been going on. We're kind of getting into that review space now and talking to students about what's next, and then already preparing for September, October, when we welcome students back with this like renewed vigor and look at all these new exciting things that we can do. At the moment, we don't know whether we're going to be back face to face in September, October for welcome and freshers. And a small plug that Andrew and Joe from 25 Dots and myself are making a programme about what does this period of time look like, given all the changes. However, we can talk about this for volunteers now. So Jasmine, Jenny, Mariana, what have you been thinking about in terms of wrapping up? I recognise, Jenny, for you this may be a bit different because your kind of yearly cycle is going to be different to students. So we'll start with you in terms of what have you been doing around that? What is it like at this time of the year usually for you, and what have you been doing a bit differently?
Yeah, so you can hear me, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I suppose fundamentally for us as our offer, and I'm sure other student unions and stuff will be the same, is that we can't deliver our normal volunteering service. So normally our volunteers go into family homes. So in order to be responsive and to ensure that we continue to support families, we've been providing support to families via telephone befriending. So we've had a massive shift in how we support families, and speaking to other national organisations, it seems others are trying to kind of replicate that as well and try and do more telephone befriending. I know Crisis is looking at doing things like that, but also we've taken the opportunity to see where potentially there are links to partnerships. So things that we've wanted to do for a while, we're taking the COVID-19 and as a impetus to just drive some change that perhaps would have taken a long time to do otherwise. So we're working with Age UK to develop Pen Friend project, and I think this is quite a nice way to continue to engage volunteers who might want to do something, or students who might want to do something active within their community. And if any students are specifically those who are still within like the university campus, or haven't gone home, they could potentially engage with local organisations such as Age UK. We're doing a pen friend project, so we're writing letters to one another with the idea that at the end, when all this is over, they're going to meet together and have a tea party, so an intergenerational project.
That's lovely.
So yeah, we're trying to take it as much as possible as an opportunity to do new things, and to continue to engage volunteers as much as we can.
Yeah. And so when does your does your volunteering just kind of continue? Do you not, because for student volunteering we have such a clear cut-off,
I know,
so you don't have this kind of training and handover window in the same way that student volunteering managers do?
No, we don't have that at all. No, it's just continuous cycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Jasmine, what about for you? Like, what have you been thinking about in terms of training, handover of projects, that kind of stuff?
So yeah, originally our term starts back again next week, and we would be delivering training the week after that for our student volunteers, and the new ones that have just sort of been inducted into project committee roles and different things like that. Obviously that's going to look very different, so what we've been looking at is how we can still digitise or deliver some form of online training. A few resources that might be useful, and I can put it in the document as well. There's a few add-ons that you can add to things like Google Slides or PowerPoint, called Pear Deck and Responseware, which just allow to be able to deliver training still kind of face-to-face in a different format, I suppose, and it allows some level of interactiveness. Also been looking at online training that, you know, sort of more self-paced, that people can go away and look at. So we found a free training called Opia, and some other things that the Open University do in terms of free training platforms. So just really shaping how we can still induct volunteers, even though they might be inducted and then not begin their role straight away. The other thing, just to ask, how much of your training before the crisis happened was online? Was it a lot heavy face-to-face? Yeah, so we would normally do around a 3-hour kind of induction for all of our project kind of committee leads, so the people running our student-led projects. That would be like a 3-hour straight away training. And then
you're not used to delivery online of training?
No, we kind of have like an online module for things like GDPR, but other than that, and safeguarding, but other than that, nothing. And yeah, the same, all of our student group activities being suspended. So we're sort of taking the line that we're not encouraging or not actively discouraging activity in different ways. So we've sort of provided resources to how they could support the community if they're able to, how they can get involved remotely with one-offs, micro-volunteering, different things like that. But also it's completely okay not to get involved at this point as well.
Yeah, thanks. And then Mariana, what's this like for you?
Well, from a university kind of point of view, obviously during this period we just very much focusing on the awards, and we just keep rolling out to our brokerage system any other volunteering opportunities that organizations might be doing, which currently the majority of them are not happening. So what we've been doing is just putting out there to our students every week, the same as we used to, our newsletter with a lot of volunteering opportunities that can be done online, that can be done from home, or we talk about any organizations that might have changed their opportunities in a way that they can be done virtually. So for example, home visits or checking on people that might be more isolated. There's a lot of organizations that are now doing phone calls and all of that. In terms of training or anything like that, we used to do face-to-face training around September, October as well. So, you know, I'm still kind of like waiting for that. And I think one of the things that we've noticed has changed is that communication. So around this period of time, because students get really excited about the awards, like we always get a lot of them coming to us and chatting, and we kind of, you know, we managed to have one-to-ones with them. and nothing of that is happening face to face now. So I think instead of waiting to be reactive and for them to come to us, because a lot of them are not going to, and I think it's important to mention like the difficulties of this, because what I was quite naive about delivering training or delivering coffee breaks to keep the communication going is that a lot of my students have actually gone home. A lot of them actually live in the other side of the world. So the idea of having a coffee break at 4 p.m. does not work, because some of them will be asleep by that point. And I know it sounds so simple, so basic, but until one of them pointed that out to me, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. I did not realize that this wouldn't work for you. And I think we just changed our strategy, and our one-to-ones, we go to them and we literally say, I want to have a one-to-one with you. You might not need this, but I want this. Would you like to have? And I think that has now led to creating new opportunities, because some of them are like, okay, so when I'm back, I now really want to do this, or I really want to raise money for this, or I really want to, it's like, okay, I like this now, but it's taking a lot of time. It's not easy. It's not easy. So yeah,
that if people can do it, that one-to-one interaction is amazing for connection and checking in on people and getting new ideas and saying thank you face to face, but it does take a heck of a lot of time, so I know it's not accessible to everybody. Okay, so we'll move on to retention. So there has been loads of worry about and I've had multiple conversations over the past few weeks with people saying, how on earth are we going to keep our engagement after this? How on earth are we going to keep this project going, that project going? I think I hate being that kind of misery guts, but I think we just have to accept that that's going to be really hard, because we are out of our usual cycle and there are things that are having to be done differently, and students are focusing on other stuff like the health of their families and managing mental health at this time. So I think, like, cut yourself a break a little bit and don't try and keep, if you've got like an engagement target for 2020-21 academic year, think about revising that, because it's going to be tricky. So it's going to be tricky, we all accept that. What can we do, what are we doing right now to kind of keep some of that momentum going with our volunteering projects? And has anybody got anything that seems to be working, or any things that you're going to give a go at in terms of trying to keep students engaged in volunteering, or for you, Jenny, trying to keep your volunteers engaged? And we've talked a little bit about some of the projects we're doing, so there might be less to say on this one, but what do you three think?
I'd echo what Mariana was saying, what you were saying before about that, just that conversation as well about valuing volunteers and just recognizing that they are in a different headspace at the moment, and just kind of, I think acknowledging that is probably our biggest focus at the moment in terms of retention, and just saying it's okay for you not to be involved right now. If you can be involved, great, and if you can do more, great. So some of our home starts are actually going out to volunteers and saying, how many more hours can you give at this time? And if you can give more, great, we can support more families, but if you can't, that's fine. Kind of communicate, so engaging those that can do more, but acknowledging those that can't, and just keeping the conversation going. So we've set up WhatsApp groups for volunteers to just communicate amongst each other, which I'm sure you guys probably do already, or already before all this, but yeah, that's something quite new. We're quite behind the times at Home Start with in terms of technology, so this has been a massive shift for us.
And I think that's been a big positive for lots of people. I think that this is kind of pushing people to use that tech that we've always had access to.
Yeah.
And it could be a real positive there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jasmine, you've been joined by a really cute friend. Who's that?
This is Kiko. I think she just wanted to get involved, she saw.
So what's been going on for you here?
So I think it's that sort of same thing, sort of allowing the momentum to keep going, but doing that in different ways. So it might be trying to engage with the volunteering opportunities that can be done remotely and different things really. We're still trying to sort of see how that might look, because at the moment we've had so little engagement from student groups across all of our different areas because they're so worried about their academics and different things. So we're sort of, have kept a lot of the conversations on hold. We've, outlined that projects need to be suspended but come to us for support, and if there is something that they need and want to do, we'll support them to do it, but also kind of allowing them that time to not have to think about it. I'm sure retention will really affect us, but I think once things are more clear about the academic picture and the long-term picture of things, they'll then be able to sort of look at different ways they can kind of mobilise the project, especially because they get such a long time off over summer as well. So sort of allowing them not to just sort of die off, so there's still excitement if everything is back to normal in autumn term.
Yeah. Mariana?
I think the way I'm currently thinking about this is any kind of admin, any kind of things that I can do right now when students are overwhelmed, they are stressed out about their assignments, their exams, all of that. I'm trying to focus on that. So there's always stuff that we kind of let fall behind because there's so much going on the entire time. So this is my strategy until I know anything new, is for now, we are doing whatever we can to update our website, to look into what didn't work that well, what worked well, revising that strategy, because this does not involve students at all. Obviously, we used to do our annual survey. We're still going to put that out there, but we do not expect students to be nearly as engaged. And we accept that. I think that's the main thing. We need to accept what it is. And we need to think in it like as an opportunity. So at this point, I'm thinking strategy, admin, I can do that, my team can do that. And in the summer, hopefully at a certain point, students will come back, all of this, this will become a bit less of a burden at some point, I hope. And I want our team to be ready for that. And that hopefully will happen during the summer. So I want to have everything updated on the website. I want to have our social media with loads of advice, suggestions for them to get involved in. And then might that be September, October, November, December, we don't know. Whenever we're back on campus, I want then my efforts to be on that face-to-face communication, contact that we've lost, because we are going to lose that. And I've had conversations with my manager. We know that retention is not going to be the same, but might it be just different? Might we actually reach out to students that we have never reached out before because we have changed the way that we do stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so we've covered lots there, and we'll open it up to discussion in a minute. And on remote volunteering, I think everyone has got loads of resources. We pulled together a resource a few weeks ago with a few ideas and shared that with people, but I've seen loads and loads and loads. So it might be an interesting thing for us to do is to collate all of those. So any that you've got, or any links to pages that you've made for your volunteers, if you don't mind sharing those, if they're public resources, pop them in the document, and then we can it might mean that we can all have more, because there's bound to be ones that we haven't found before. NCVO produced, well, they've had it for a long time, but they've had some guidance about how to create your own micro volunteering opportunity, and I've been sharing that with people because I think it doesn't all have to be stuff that already exists. That people can be responsive to the situation and create new opportunities. And particularly there's been obviously the NHS volunteering opportunities that have been widely shared, and there's other things coming forward now. There's quite a lot of sewing based stuff around making scrubs and making bags for doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals. So there's quite a lot in terms of remote volunteering opportunities going on. Does anybody, Jasmine, Jenny, Mariana, do you have anything else to say on the remote volunteering stuff?
Just in a way that it might relate with students kind of wanting to record their hours if they've done any micro volunteering or any virtual volunteering, because we've had that. I've had to have a few conversations with students just kind of saying, look, there are organizations that you're going to be volunteering with that are considered like formal volunteering, like I'm assuming Home Start will still, you know, keep track of who is volunteering when, yada, yada, yada. But a lot of the volunteering done online is what we would call informal volunteering. And informal volunteering, usually there's no way of tracking what you're doing. There's no, you know, a specific manager looking after you or anything like that. So my approach to that was just that I had a few conversations with students just saying, look, this is about really you helping others, you trying to do something new, but bear in mind that in terms of us looking into those hours, we might not be able to put that onto your award. So that was just a question I had quite a lot recently.
Mm-hmm.
I can add, it's kind of going back from remote volunteering. So I've already shared kind of the stuff that we've been doing around remote volunteering and all the telephone befriending, but we've also had lots of our volunteers wanting to engage on the doorstep support and wanting to do more. And so we've been looking at how we approach and kind of link into the mutual aid groups locally as well, so that volunteers feel that they can be active and participatory during this crisis, and that they don't feel like that they have to stay at home. Mm-hmm. So we've been doing that as well.
Great. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes before we are finished. So what I would like you to do now is we'll unmute you all, and well, unmute yourselves actually, because otherwise it's going to just be a free-for-all. But now's the chance to kind of share stuff that you've been doing, or ask questions that if there's something that Mariana or Jenny or Jasmine have said that you want to kind of clarify or follow up on. Or if you've got anything you want to share that you've been doing that's a bit different to things we've already talked about, let's go, pitch in. And don't be scared, we're all nice.
One thing I was going to ask on the SVN network anyway, but I may as well ask on here, is if anybody's done any guidance for student-led projects about how they might be able to work remotely. I'll put my video on quickly. Because yeah, obviously, like, to try and help with that retention of volunteers that they've had this year, or to try and keep some activity up. A lot of them obviously work with schools, so can't go into schools, but I don't know if anybody has kind of created anything there about kind of how they might be able to continue doing anything online, even as like production of videos or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody know anything about that? It doesn't have to be Jenny, Mariana or Jasmine. Does anybody else have anything on that? No. Pop it in the document, and then sometimes people just are a bit nervous about talking, or their mics and stuff aren't working, so pop it in the document and we can discuss it offline, kind of on, well no, it's still online, isn't it? Anyway, Matthew, you had a question. If your mic working?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, I guess firstly, just in response to that previous question, here at Bristol, we sent out an email to all our volunteering projects just to say, like, we would be here to support you if you wanted to set something up remotely. Mm-hmm. And I think for the majority of them, the students had moved home, and I think, like we were quite stressed with academic work, especially as their sort of focus on volunteering winds down towards the end of the year. So not many of them came forward, but a few of them were thinking about adapting to a remote format. So for example, one of our groups, Students for Students, I think are in talks to set up online tutoring, whereas before they'd done it in person. And then our Roots Community Gardening group has made some online videos. So I think there is potential there, but I think a lot of students are just reluctant to get involved in that because they're busy with other things.
Yeah.
And then, yes, my other question was just about mutual aid in the city and whether any other universities or students' unions have been helping support this, because yeah, we've been trying to set up a group for our students to help out, not only in the community but also to help each other. And I was just wondering if anyone else had done something similar.
Great. So has anybody done something like that? Has anybody had ideas about how to do that?
With mutual aid groups, we've been just helping spread the word about the ones in religion, just because I'm very conscious of repeating volunteering opportunities. I think it's something that tends to happen when there's a bit of a panic situation. Is sometimes we just want to do something and we just immediately react, okay, let's create this, when actually the support is already there. So we've checked the ones in our local area. We know they're good. We know they're reliable. We've read about your guidelines, about their safeguarding, about what you're doing, and we advertise those in our newsletter. And the other thing that I found really interesting that is happening at UWL, I'm not sure how successful it's been, because to be completely honest, they have not involved us at all. But they've tried to create a budding scheme between staff and students. So they ask staff to sign up if they wouldn't mind being a buddy. So yeah, so that's I'm not sure how that's going, but I think it's about kind of supporting students that might be feeling a bit more isolated.
Yeah.
If anybody's got any other suggestions, or your mic's not working or you don't want to talk, pop your ideas and suggestions in the Google document, and we'll keep that open, and you can keep the conversation going about these things in there. Does anybody have anything else that they want to kind of say to the group or chat about or raise as an issue for us to kind of look at in the future?
I was just going to add that so one of the things that we do, because all of our students are sort of spread across the UK and Europe anyway, is that we've got volunteers who are now running the online drop-in sessions, so that students can come together and chat just about what's going on and bring their ideas, and some of them have, run pub quizzes and things like that. So I suppose our setup is similar to where all your students have gone home, so some of them may still be interested, and that peer support is quite useful at this time. So yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Thanks. Rosie, could I just add, yes, I'm Nikki, and I'm with Beth. We're at the Open University Student Association. Just to say that we use Slack as a platform to engage people. I'm just having a quick look at it now. We've got several Slack channels for various different things, and I see we've got currently 250 of our volunteers on there.
That's amazing.
We really, Slack has been very successful. So look at that as a way of engaging people.
Wow, that's a good suggestion. I use Slack for supporting some things as well, and it is really helpful just as that kind of chatting place about different ideas and things, and it's not as invasive as some of the other communication platforms. So is there anything else from you over at the OU, because obviously you're way more used to this than we are, so is there anything else that you've been doing that you wanted to share with people?
So all of our sort of student-led projects are generally online. Some of them do have a face-to-face element, but there are a lot of like campaigns and things which they use hashtags to get people sharing things. We've got one that they're doing at the moment, which is the eye patch challenge, to raise awareness of eye health, especially now because our students are learning online, so they're on screens a lot, but obviously people are going to be on a lot more screens now, and they're setting challenges that people can do in their homes with an eye patch or an eye covered to just raise awareness, and that's something that we can do online. So some of these student-led projects they're just sort of getting a bit more creative and thinking about how they can create things to share virtually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hi.
It was literally Pirates that was doing something on Twitter as well, which is something like take a picture with a book, send it across your networks and get students, get children to not forget to read or something like that. I've very briefly seen it on Twitter, but yeah, if you log onto Twitter and search for Literacy Pirates, I think they were doing something quite cool.
I've got a question. Sorry, I'm new to the chat. My name's Kawzara, so I'm the Student Opportunities Coordinator for DSU, De Montfort University in Leicester. So I'm particularly doing the volunteering and the mentoring stuff. So in terms of, I just wanted to know first, because I just started this role, I've not really heard of Slack, so I'm new to this role. And I would love to network with the Student Mentoring Association. I think it was Beth and Nicola, to find out more how we can engage our students, because right now our volunteering stuff, it's not as big as we would like it to be, particularly in this run. Obviously, we've also hit difficult times. So trying to find out how do we sort of, not just retain that, but also how do we sort of increase our hold whilst we're in this moment, kind of thing. Sorry, I wasn't able to attend the chat earlier because I had another meeting, but
Fine.
that's something that I would love to find out more.
If anybody's got kind of any answers or ideas on that, then pop it in the Google document, because I'm aware that we're nearly at time now. Yeah, and Beth and Nicola, if you've got any kind of examples, because obviously you've done this for a bit longer than us, we would definitely appreciate ideas. And I encourage you all to keep sharing in that document. And if there's anything else where you're like, actually, I'd like to run a pitch in about this thing because we know about it, or we've got this idea. Andrew, I'm sure, will agree that these aren't exclusive parties. Like, people can run them themselves, and Andrew's been really helpful in setting them up and doing all the tricky admin stuff. So please feel free to do those. I'm gonna wrap up now, because I don't want to take up any more of your time, because I know you're all busy and everybody needs a few minutes off screen break before the next meeting. But I wanted to thank Mariana and Jenny and Jasmine for being our presenters in the session, but also to thank Beth and Nicola, because you've been adding a few extra useful things there from your perspective at the Open University. If we'll share the document again in the chat to make sure. Oh, someone shared it. Thanks, you, Clan. So that you can see that. So keep chatting on the document, pop in more questions. If you'd like Organised Fund to help you organise a pitch in, we're happy to do that. If you want me to kind of do this bit and do the introductory stuff, I love chatting about student opportunities. Happy to help. But also, if you wanted to run one yourself, then get in touch with Andrew. A quick thing to let you know of, and I've put the information in the chat. If you haven't heard already, we're running the National Societies and Volunteering Awards for the first time this year. So the predecessor for that was the National Societies Awards. The judging panel is this afternoon, which is very exciting. And then we'll have a shortlist and stuff available that will be advertised online. We are going to be running an online award ceremony that is not going to be ticketed. It's going to be completely free. So I encourage you all to attend that, and I'll make sure that everybody who is in this session and pops there, if you put your email address in the Word document, I'll make sure that you get the email invitation to that, because that will be, number one, nice to see some familiar faces, because I'm going to be talking, going in a dress, being like, yay, these people have won awards, but also it's going to be a really good showcase of student volunteering in societies, so hopefully you'll enjoy that. Yeah, Andrew, is there anything else that we need to say about SU skills or about the pitch-in sessions?
So we have another pitch-in session scheduled. It's tomorrow at 10. It's with Peridot Partners, Eve Alcock from Bath and Sarah Ellis from Keele, and it's talking about supporting staff and officers. It's more like kind of helping people to feel confident and productive in their work, kind of coping with the changes, and more around the kind of well-being for your staff angle. I will put a link to that here as well, is the only one of these pitching sessions that requires registration, but it's still free. You just need to fill in a little form first. And then there's one kind of in the pipeline about how to look after your sporting societies. And I'm talking to a couple of people about trying to get the sports SABs to come online and do a presentation, but I'm sure I'll manage it. Yeah, and then there should be some more in the pipeline after that, but I don't have any scheduled right now. But yeah, please go to suskills.co.uk, keep an eye on the blog for new sessions, and go to the resource hub for all the videos and links and documents and murals and so on from the past sessions. That's all free. And yeah, join the mailing list as well if you like.
Thank you all for attending, and I hope you all have a lovely Wednesday and the rest of your week. Enjoy your bank holidays at the end of the week, and thanks again to our presenters and everybody who contributed. It's really nice to see you all. Have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.